subhanahu wa ta'ala, we continue with matters of aqidah, matters of belief, from the book of Sunnah by Al-Imam Al-Barbahari rahimahullah. And as we heard, these are principles, foundations, and one after another. So even if a person didn't attend the previous sessions, each principle on its own, it's something that a Muslim should learn. Of course, we should learn all of them because this is the foundation of the deen. And we don't need to repeat, although we do need to repeat, the importance of the aqidah, the importance of matters of belief. It's very clear that the aqidah, matters of belief, is the foundation of the deen. That speech and actions are based on the aqidah. The aqidah is proper and sound, then the speech and actions are proper and sound. If the aqidah is not sound, there is not much benefit from the speech and actions. It depends on how much deviation a person has from the aqidah. So if a person is a disbeliever, for example, and he has the best speech, of course he won't have the best speech, but to the people he's nice in his speech. He do so much of good work to humanity and charity and kind to the neighbors and so on. All of these actions, even if he does it without seeking any reward from the human beings, it's all waste, because it's not based on the proper aqidah, because he doesn't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or associate partners with Allah and so on. So that's why the aqidah is so important. And as we said yesterday, that the aqidah, when it comes to the general meaning of it, that has all matters of belief, that makes a Muslim versus disbelievers. This is the general aqidah with all different things in aqidah, that's one thing. But there's also within al-Islam, there is the specific aqidah of those who are saved among the Muslim ummah. Because this Muslim ummah, it's a reality that, as the Prophet ﷺ said, it will split. There are so many that would claim that they are Muslims. You would find kuffar, they claim to be Muslims. They are kuffar in their aqidah. If they deny something in the deen, for example, if a person or a group of people, they deny something called a Sunnah. Only Quran and that's it. There's no such a thing as Sunnah. That's kufr. They're not Muslims to start with. This is not in the fold of Islam. But they will be so proud to call themselves Muslims. So it's not by the da'wah, it's not by the call or the claim, right? It has to be based on the truth and based on matters of belief. So within the ummah of al-Islam, or those who claim or call themselves Muslims, there are people on the truth and there are people that are deviated. And those who are deviated, they either have major deviation that would take them outside the fold of al-Islam if they oppose one of the major principles of aqidah, or they have deviation, doesn't take them outside the fold of al-Islam, but they have deviations. So the duty of the Muslim is not just to be within the circle of al-Islam, the broad one. The duty is to be among those who are free from all deficiencies and issues in matters of belief and so on. Then becomes the actions of the individual. Nobody's sinless. A person falling into mistakes, problems and so on, this is valid. Human beings are human beings. As far as the methodology or matters of belief, there's no faults. There's no mistakes whatsoever in anything in matters of belief, speech and actions as far as the deen is concerned. There's nothing, no wrong, no mistakes in the deen of Islam whatsoever. So when people do wrong, either they do it because of their actions, they know the truth, or they're ignorant about the truth, but they fall into mistakes, or they would fall, or they follow something deviant, something of deviation, and that's very evil and that's a very scary thing, right? So the deen is perfect. Muslims, of course, they're not perfect, but they need to follow the perfect religion, and then when they're not perfect, it's their own shortcomings. They ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness and so on. So that's very important. So this is the main subject here, is the aqidah of the people of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. These are the people that the Prophet ﷺ had made it very clear that they are the only ones that will be saved from the hellfire. We're not talking about individuals again. We're not talking about ourselves as individuals. We're talking about the i'tiqad or matters of belief of the saved group, the saved sect, by the statement of the Prophet ﷺ when he mentioned the split among the ummah. He said, except one. And what is this one? He said, مَا أَنَا عَلَيْهِ وَأَصْحَابِي, what me and my companions are on. Not some narrations today, in some narrations al-jama'ah. So this is the jama'ah, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, and those who followed them. So this is part of the aqidah, as we heard before. And this is what al-Islam that we need to follow. The Islam that we need to follow is the Islam that was at the time of the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. Not the new invented Islam or the new ways that they want to change the deen by. No, the Islam that was then. And that's what we are ordered to follow, the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And al-Islam, as he mentioned, Islam is the Sunnah, and the Sunnah is al-Islam. The Sunnah in the context of al-Aqidah. Because the Sunnah means to follow the Prophet ﷺ. It's not referring to the recommended acts and so on. And I'm still just briefly mentioning some of these points that were mentioned before. And that the deen is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another principle, the deen is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not from the intellect or the reason of people or their opinions. The deen is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why matters of aqidah, as it also will come afterwards, there's no qiyas in it, there's no analogy in it. This is a matter of belief. People have to believe in it the way it was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ. And that's what makes religion a religion, is that it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And yesterday we talked about the opposite of that Sunnah is the bid'ah. And when people innovate something in the deen, they leave the like of it from the Sunnah, from the way of the Prophet ﷺ. So we have a duty as Muslims, and that becomes more and more important at the time of fitan and tribulations and things are confusing and so on, that we have a duty to do the matters of the deen and to follow the deen, and the duty to stay away from anything that is introduced into the deen, added to the deen. Not from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but from human beings making up things. And that does not take away from the perfection of the deen of Islam. The deen of Islam is perfect. But human beings doing things, then this is the job of the ulama to warn against these things, so that people would continue to stay on the pure religion that was at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And warning against these things should be the way of life of the Muslim, even if it's a very small matter that is introduced. Even if it's very small. If it's something introduced into the deen, that a person has to be warned against it, because it doesn't stay small. Generation after generation makes it deen and makes it big. And a person can never guarantee where that would take the person, or take group of people, or the ummah. It can take the person even outside the fold of Islam with something small introduced. And it's always the action of one person. People like it, and shaitan makes it beautiful in the eyes of people and so on. Right? Like for example, here in America, I'm not sure if there's any masjid that has a grave in it. I don't think there is. Right? There's no masjid where there's a grave of a pious man or a non-pious man. It doesn't matter. It's all over the Muslim world. Right? I'm sure that some people are trying to do this. Right? They're trying to do this, but they're waiting for the death of someone that they like. So shaitan was working. Right? And they would say, how come there's all kinds of places in the Muslim world they have this? Why can't we do the same thing? Right? So that somebody might try to introduce something like this, and people might belittle something like that, and then the shirk comes with it. The Muslim starts associating partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So a person has to be alert and joining good and forbidding evil and warning against matters of shirk, and not to relax about the matter, because shaitan is working and he's constantly working. And the people of the truth, they need to work and enjoy good and give da'wah to matters of the truth. And the most important thing again is matter of aqidah. And then after that, the last point that we talked about yesterday, that we have to be even watchful of what we hear and what we see. This was written 1100 years ago. Right? And still, the duty of a Muslim to be careful. So it's more even important at times of fitr, not to give our ears and our hearts to anything that talks about deen. We have a personal responsibility to make sure that we are on the truth and we sure that we are on the truth. Especially for those who come to the masajid. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided someone to come to the house of Allah. He's concerned about the deen. He's not negligence about the deen. He's concerned about the deen. So that means we have to be concerned about the deen, not just anything that sounds nice or anything that we follow that. We have to make sure that this is the way of the Prophet ﷺ. And if someone from the people of Ahl Sunnah, the people of the deen, ulama of the deen, they make a mistake, it's valid for them to make mistakes, meaning that this is something that is part of human nature. We don't follow the mistake, but we don't cancel or ignore this alim completely, as we heard the statement of Mu'adh radiallahu anhu, and the explanation of the Shaykh Abdul Muhsin Abbad to this athar in Sharh Sunan Abi Dawud, in his the explanation of the Sunan Abi Dawud. So, but if someone is already taken the path of the innovations of the deen, this is different, right? So we have to differentiate between mistakes, which is everybody fall into mistakes, and someone that choose the path of deviation after the matter has been made clear to him, opposing the way of the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba radiallahu anhu. Then after that, and this is where we start at the point number 8, or you can call it the principle number 8. He says, وَعْلَمْ رَحِمَكَ اللَّهِ. Every time he says, وَعْلَمْ رَحِمَكَ اللَّهِ. Know, may Allah have mercy on you. And again, this is the concern of the people of Ahl Sunnah towards one another and towards others. They are the most gentle, they are the most concerned towards humanity and towards the believers and towards the Muslims. And this is something that should be present in the heart of a Muslim. But we as human beings, we don't like anybody to advise us. So if someone wants to correct us, we might not like that person. And we would think that the one that has more concern towards us is the one that makes us feel good and praise us. And mashallah, this is everything is nice and everything is great. That's deceiving, that's deception. The best person is the one that corrects others, and it doesn't mean that he's perfect and he's think that he's perfect and he just needs to correct others. No, but this is part of our deen, right? And that's why people have to enjoin good and forbid evil and advise one another. So who would do this better than the ulama of the deen? This is their job. The alim of the deen he has the ilm to convey it to others. And this is a responsibility that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask him in the day of judgment if he conceals the truth and doesn't spread the truth that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed. And also the duty of anyone that he sees in himself the ability to learn and to spread the truth, then he should not lay back and relax, but to study in the right way, to study the deen of Islam in the proper way, so that he can spread the truth. And that's the best level after the level of prophethood, which is nashrul ilm or bathul ilm, or spread the ilm, spread the knowledge. So he says, وَعْلَمْ رَحِمَكَ اللَّهِ أنه لا يتم إسلام عبد حتى يكون متبعا مصدقا مسلما. فمن زعم أنه بقى شيء من أمر الإسلام لم يكفناه أصحاب محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم فقد كذبهم وكفى به فرقة وطعنا عليهم وهو مبتدع ضال مضل محدث في الإسلام ما ليس منه. What does that mean? He says, no, may Allah have mercy on you, that the Islam of a slave of Allah, Islamu Abdin, the Islam of a person, not the Islam as the religion, your Islam, your deen, would never be complete. The Islam is complete. Islam is perfect and complete. But the way we adopt the deen, our deen, would not be complete حتى يكون, till he becomes three things: متبعا, مصدقا, مسلما, or muslima. متبعا means till the person is a follower, following the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام. مصدقا, believing, trusting, from a sidq, truthfulness, that he believes that this is the truth. He follows, he believes that this is the truth, and the tasdeeq comes before al-ittiba', or al-ittiba' comes before the tasdeeq. Anyway, he believes that this is the truth, he follows what is truth, which is the way the Prophet ﷺ, musallima, in state of submission, right? And that explains itself even in other statements to come. But three characteristics in the Muslim: he believes that this is the truth, he follows it, and he is in state of submission. And that's what Islam is. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it easy that you find these names explain itself by itself, self-explanatory, to make it easy for everybody that this is our religion. Our religion is Al-Islam, is not referred to a cult or to a human being or to a race or like other religions. This is Al-Islam, that means submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to submit ourselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by following the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So the Islam would never be complete unless we have this. Person is, again, we remember these three things: muttabi'an, musaddiqan, musalliman. Follower, believing that this is the truth, and submitting oneself. فَمَنْ زَعَمَ, and this is what needs to be done. Then you always, whenever it's mentioned like this, the opposite, to warn against the opposite. فَمَنْ زَعَمَ, whoever claims, الزعم is to claim something. Whoever claims أنه بقى شيء من أمر الإسلام, that there is something, بقى شيء, there is something from matters of Islam, لم يكفوناه أصحاب محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم, that the Sahaba of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم did not suffice us in that part. You know what that means? That means if a person believes that there's a portion of the deen of Islam, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum did not adopt it, or they did not do it, or it can come from other than them, right? فَقَدْ كَذَّبَهُمْ, he then claimed that they are liars or denied that they are to be followed. So when we say we follow their way, because the deen was completed. And the ayah was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ, الْيَوْمَ أَكْمَلْتُ لَكُمْ دِينَكُمْ وَأَتْمَمْتُ عَلَيْكُمْ نِعْمَتِي وَرَضِيتُ لَكُمُ الْإِسْلَامَ دِينًا. On that day I complete your religion and perfected my favor upon you, and pleased for you to have the religion of Islam. So the deen was complete. And who completed them, completed it in its bringing it together and saving it and applying it and so on, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. So whoever claimed that there is a part of the deen, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum didn't do or didn't convey it to us, that something is missing, that means we have to do something to complete that. Of course, that means he's saying that they are liars. وَكَفَى بِهِ فُرْقَةً وَطَعْنًا, and this is sufficient for that person to be in attacking the deen and splitting away from the truth. And he becomes definitely from those who are deviants, right? And this has examples too. وَهُوَ مُبْتَدِعٌ ضَالٌ مُضِلٌ, and he's mubtadi', he's innovator in the deen. ضَالٌ مُضِلٌ, he's a deviant and he deviates others. مُحْدِثٌ فِي الْإِسْلَامِ مَا لَيْسَ مِنْهُ, he's introducing in the deen of Islam what's not in it, right? So what examples of this? You can check the lives of people and the history of all different sects. Many people, they don't have to say that with their speech, but it can be seen with actions, right? So if people think that for us to establish the deen of Islam, we have to do things that was not done at the time of the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba radiallahu anhu. They are claiming that they know better, or they will not suffice for us to establish the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you remember, one time we read the fatwa that was by Shaykh rahimahullah, when someone asked him about a person of righteousness and of some knowledge, and he calls people, he gives them da'wah to the deen of Islam. And he goes to these people, those who are extremely criminals. They kill and they commit zina and they very evil. And he brings them with his kindness to some circles or some gatherings of as-sama', to listen to some nasheeds, to listen to these types of things, and that helped them so much, and they repented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they became so pious and so righteous and so on, right? So is that person's action is good, right? And the answer was detailed one, showing the principles of the deen and so on. But the point that was mentioned The Prophet ﷺ faced much more deviants than these people. Prophet ﷺ faced the most deviant people on earth, Kuffar of Quraysh. How did the Prophet ﷺ call them to the deen? What was the da'wah of the Prophet ﷺ? Right? We're not talking about the mechanism, like for example using the microphone or spreading pamphlets or emails. This is okay, these are means. What was the content of the da'wah? What was the content of the da'wah of the Prophet ﷺ? Was it poetry and people sit together and they move themselves and they do kinds of, affect the heart? It was the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Right? So, is that sufficient? Some people think it's not sufficient. They think with their actions that this is not sufficient to call people to the deen of Islam. They need something else. Right? Do we know better or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows? So we convey the message. We convey it in the most perfect way, in the most humble way, in the most kind way, in the most eloquent way, no problem. But what is the content of the message? قال الله قال رسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. You want to translate it because people won't understand Arabic. If you stand and you read an ayah to them, right, and they say this is the da'wah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course nobody ever said that. So you translate the meaning of it, but you're translating the meaning of it. You understand it and you translate the meaning of it. So this is with the sincerity, with the goodness, this is the way. And this is just an example, right? Thinking that to protect oneself at times of difficulty, when Muslims feel that they are weak and oppressed, how to deal with that situation, then we need to know what the Prophet ﷺ did with his companions radiallahu anhum when they were in that situation in Mecca, for example. Right? Did they compromise their religion? People start thinking of ways without sometimes referring back to Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the deen has been completed, but human beings need to be patient. They don't have to see the outcome of their actions today. Right? They don't have, this is not in their capacity. A slave, abd, he does not dictate what's the outcome of things. A slave, he follows. He do what is right. And the outcome definitely is best because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised, which shows again the importance of knowledge. And many details like this, if people think, and this also will be mentioned in the next subject, that riba or matters of haram that Allah forbade, and people start to have excuses because of this and because of that. One thing is to fall into the sin, knowing that this is a sin, it's haram and everything, but it's totally different than someone would justify it and would say this is okay because we're living in the 21st century. We have to be aware of something that is also very evil and very sneaky. Very evil and sneaky movement. And it's our duty to be aware of these things. You'd find, and this is actually, when you read about the history, not too far away history, it's a movement, right? That they would not say anything bad about the deen of Islam. They would praise the deen of Islam and the Muslims and everything. Many people, they would do that with good intentions, it doesn't matter, but we're not talking about intentions of people. And they would say, for example, that the Prophet ﷺ, at his time, the things that the Prophet ﷺ brought to mankind was, like for example, the feminist situation. That the Prophet ﷺ liberated the women from the evenness of Jahiliyyah and ignorance, and people used to buy and sell women and they don't consider them of people of any value, they have no soul, which is true, But they would say it in the context of which the Prophet ﷺ was the best at that time. They might not say it directly, right? But now we're at another level. That we have to take this to another level. Right? So women, for example, they got the right at that time in the most perfect way. Now, if the Prophet ﷺ was alive today, then it's another level that women need to have more. If it's correct to say liberation, but we don't know what that liberation means.
Freedom.
Right, which is the freedom of sins, basically, not the nice words of things. So they would justify the things that they would do without saying that the Islam is bad or the deen is bad. No, the deen is perfect. But this was at a certain era, at a certain time. It was perfect then. Now we need to add on what that situation was, because now we're living in a different environment and so on. This is a concept that is so evil, and we have to be against and warned against this. And we're not talking about the new incidences that needs the ijtihad of the ulama. This is totally different. So as a principle, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had saved this religion, and the companions of the Prophet ﷺ sufficed for us all matters of the deen, matters of belief, what is right and what is wrong and what is halal, what is haram. All of that is complete. We just need to seek the knowledge. And the things that are new in the lives of people, like many transactions, very complicated. We have principles of the deen. We have to refer to the people of knowledge to know what is right and what is wrong, but based on principles, not based on desires or reason and so on. And that leads to the next point, which is وَاعْلَمْ رَحِمَكَ اللَّهِ أَنَّهُ لَيْسَ فِي السُنَّةِ قِيَاسٍ وَلَا يُضْرَبُ لَهَا الْأَمْثَالِ وَلَا تُتَّبَعُ فِيهَا الْأَهْوَاء وهو التصديق بآثار رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بلا كيف ولا شرح ولا يقال لما ولا كيف. Which means may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on you, that there is no qiyas in the sunnah, no analogy in the sunnah. We know that what he refers to as sunnah here, this is in the context of aqidah. So there's no analogy in the aqidah. He's not denying the qiyas in general, because the qiyas is one of the principles of extracting rulings that the people of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they agree upon, but without having a text present, right? And that's why the Quran and the Sunnah, the Prophet ﷺ and the consensus, al-ijma', these are the principles that they all agree upon. Then after that, if there's an incident that doesn't have a clear text, verse of the Quran, hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, this is where the qiyas comes in place. Qiyas, analogy. Seeing an incident or an ayah or a hadith that is clear and the ruling of it is clear in the deen of Islam, and taking that to make a ruling of something that is new or so using the same principle. And this is basically what the analogy is. This is permissible if there is no nas, if there is no text. There's a text, there's no analogy. If there's an ayah in the Quran, there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, there's no qiyas then. There's no analogy valid. And if the alim made qiyas, made analogy, because the hadith did not reach him and nobody can claim that all the evidences are present with one person, then if the people of knowledge would see that the hadith says otherwise, then the qiyas is not valid and people need to follow the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How is that with examples? Like, who's the one that introduced this qiyas, this invalid analogy with matters of belief, and he's condemned and cursed till the day of judgment? Iblis. As the ulama, they say he's the head of these people. Because when he was ordered to make sujood to Adam alayhi salam, he said what? خَلَقْتَنِي مِنْ نَارٍ وَخَلَقْتَهُ مِنْ طِينٍ. He said to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how would I make sujood to someone when I'm created from fire and he's created from mud? So he used his reason. Right? He made his qiyas, he made his analogy. I make sujood for him when I'm superior. I'm created from something more superior than him. What was the job of Iblis at this time? He was supposed to submit himself to the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not to use his analogy. Right? So he's the head of this, and that's why he works on people to follow him, to stay away from the wahy, from the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to use their own qiyas and their own analogy. And nobody, rarely would find people would say, I oppose the revelation from Allah, and that's it. People will have their own explanations, right? And there are so many examples of this. So in matters of aqidah, of course, this is very clear. And in all matters, if there is text, there's no such a thing as analogy if there's a text. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that about the disbelievers and riba. That they said, the disbelievers, قالوا إنما البيع مثل الربا وأحل الله البيع وحرم الربا. They said, the buying and selling, is like riba, is like usury. This is the analogy. Yeah, and it's true, when you compare them, you would find that it's a very fine line between buying and selling and riba, with the different rulings of riba and usury. So they said that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered by saying what? by explaining, no, it's actually like this and this and this. وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Allah made the bay' halal, made buying and selling halal, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made al-riba haram. That's the answer. If they don't like this, then there's no need of going back and forth with convincing or arguing. And that's why the next point is to stay away from disputes and arguments. Dispute and argument about what? Right? It's deen. It's not a PhD of some sort. It's deen. It's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's not about convincing which is more benefiting. Of course, what's benefiting is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made permissible. It's not about this and about human intellect. It's about revelation from Allah, wahy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To be followed or not to be followed. If a person has a problem with this, then there's no point of going back and forth. We have to still work on that part. This part of Islam. Is there submission or not? Submission to who? To the Creator of the heavens and earth. Does that need to be convincing? If this is from the Creator of the heavens and earth, He's the one that decreed this matter. Is it valid for the human being to dispute in this and to say, but it makes sense otherwise and so on? What that is called? It's called all kinds of things. It's kufr, it's deviation, it's all kinds of things. So, and that's what the ulama, when they talk about no jidal and arguments, because of this, they don't mean don't debate to make the truth clear. This is not what it meant. It meant that what we're calling people to is to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to worship Him alone and to follow what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed. So the job is to make it clear what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed. What is the meaning of bay'ah, for example, in that case? What is the definition of buying and selling? What is the definition of what riba means? This is the concern. Once it becomes clear what is this and what is this, not according to what we want, but according to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed, then this is halal and this is haram. If you want to talk about the wisdom behind it later, sure, no problem. But it has nothing to do with what the disbelievers said, that they are the like, or they are the same, that means we can do riba and so on. So the same thing when people say, this is the 21st century, right? Riba has to, we have to deal with riba. If there's no riba, the economy of the whole world will collapse. Muslims would say that, right? This is what the problem is, khalal and deviation in aqeedah. It's not about a sinful act. That person needs to review his belief, right? He needs to know what the meaning of deen is. Right? This is different than someone would say about a specific transaction. He thinks that this is not riba. Even if he's wrong, but that's different, right? He thinks this is not riba. He says riba is haram. No doubt. But this specific transaction is not considered riba. Right? Whether he's deviant or not, but this is totally different than to say nowadays the riba that we know is haram, but because the situation, not the situation of necessity, because the necessity, life and death, makes what's haram halal. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. But because of many other things and so on. And we can go on and on with this so much. Like, the things that it's difficult for people nowadays to implement in the deen of Islam. And they would take the path of al-qiyas, the path of analogy, and not to be patient with the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The mixing between men and women, hijab of the women, for example, women participation in defending the Muslims and politics, and right, and we praise the matter because they are, mashallah, doing great for the ummah, right? Analogy. We're in times of weaknesses, so it's okay, Who said it? Is it for us to say what's okay and what's not okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the women to observe certain things. And you would find the Muslims are supporting this and inviting these Muslim activists and all of these things. We're not talking about intentions of the people. We're not talking about the concern and the sincerity and so on, but this is deen, right? So we should not mix things together. How did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala order the women to wear hijab? The concern of the Muslim women is, what is the hijab that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with if I wear it? That's her concern, because that's deen. Not what the hijab that would make everybody happy with me and I will be accepted by the society And hijab, by the way, is not clothing, it's an attitude, it's a way of life, and so on and so forth. So the analogy comes in place. So this is a very dangerous thing, right? Many times it's because of the lack of knowledge. And that's what the fitan, the times of fitan is. To have good expectations of others, towards others, it's because the lack of knowledge. And that's why we have to educate ourselves and educate others. But to educate ourselves and others with the principles of the deen. These principles are clear, that we are supposed to submit ourselves, to have that total submission to the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring what is best for us. So the ummah keep on compromising, year after year. And people praising this compromise, they think that's it. Now this is a very good way to do things, and it gets from one worse situation to another worse situation. Actually, if things get better, then people will have doubt in the religion. If compromising the deen of Islam would give the Muslims help and superiority and to be, then there's not something wrong with the deen of Islam. It doesn't work this way. It's opposite to what people think. So when a person is patient with the orders of Allah, and this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us, and it doesn't look like people would like this whatsoever. It doesn't matter. This is the orders of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised when people are patient to the orders of Allah, the outcome is definitely good, but they need to be patient with the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the sunnah laysa fi sunnati qiyas. There's no qiyas in the sunnah. If the sunnah meaning matters of aqidah, and of course this an important principle in aqidah, for example, matters of like al-asma' wa sifat, the names and attributes of Allah. There's no qiyas in this, there's no analogy in this. Right? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about himself subhanahu wa ta'ala that he is as-sami', that means he is as-sami'. Don't go beyond by saying that the human beings are this and then resembling and denying, and there's no qiyas in the sunnah. There's no qiyas in matters of aqidah. Believe in it the way it is. Don't distort it, don't say it's similar to, don't deny it, don't alter it. Take it the way it is, and this is how the Sahaba radiallahu anhum took that deen. If the hadith about the hereafter, that there's a mizan, the balance of the deeds and the day of judgment, it has two sides to it, right? People are embarrassed to say that to all humanity because they think, what is balance in the day of judgment? Deeds to be put on a balance. It doesn't work this way. Deeds are not physical. So how can you put something non-physical on a balance? Right? Analogy. Right? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made this is clear, and the Prophet ﷺ said it, how the Sahaba radiallahu anhum took it at that time. It's as it's mentioned. Right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one that created things to be non-physical, He's the one that is able to make it physical in the day of judgment. If the Baqarah and Ali Imran comes in the day of judgment as two clouds in the day of judgment. This is what the Prophet ﷺ said. Two clouds on top of the person that used to read and memorize and act according to the Baqarah and Ali Imran, defending that person. Right? So when someone is sitting and explaining this, it's not really two clouds. It's just something metaphoric. This is analogy. Right? Opposing the unseen, the matters of belief, that we're supposed to believe in it the way it is. We know what it means, and how exactly these things would look like, we didn't see it, but we believe in what is being said, and this is matters of unseen. So anything that is mentioned about the signs of the hour, the day of judgment, the halal and the haram, and you see that many things will come up of deviation as a result of the deviation in the heart. It's a seed in the heart. Once that seed is present, once a person allow himself to have analogies in the deen that opposes the text and the clear evidences of the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, it never stops. It gets worse and worse, especially at times of fitan and tribulations and so on. And we can go on and on again with examples like this. So, لَيْسَ بِالسُنَّةِ قِيَاسٍ. There is no qiyas or analogy in the Sunnah if the matter is clear in the Sunnah, matters of aqidah, or any other matters if there is text. If the text, there is no then qiyas. وَلَا يُضْرَبُ لَهَا الْأَمْثَالِ. Another thing is that amthal is examples or parables. You don't make amthal or parables for the Sunnah. What does that mean? You know how al-amthal is to make an idea clearer into the minds of people. You have a non-physical aspect and you give a physical example so that it becomes clearer or closer to people understanding. And mathal is many in the Quran. Like, for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave many examples of parables in the Quran. Like the one that associate partners with Allah is like a slave has many owners. He's disturbed because each owner ordered him to do something opposite. This is an example, physical example that people will understand in their life, and that relating that to the meaning that needs to be understood. Like the rain as an example of giving life to death, and how people will be in the Day of Judgment. Although in the Day of Judgment, there will be rain, actually, as it's mentioned in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that the bodies of the people will be resurrected after this rain. So these are examples. So the Sunnah, we don't set examples for it, that we would change the deen of Islam because of these examples. The examples has to be according to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and not something opposing it. ولا تتبع فيها الأهواء, and we don't follow in that the desire. The desire is always mentioned because that's what opposes the wahy, the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what is this? وهو التصديق بآثار رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. التصديق, to have the belief about the tradition and what the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم left بلا كيف, without saying how, ولا شرح. What he means by wala sharh means without explanation. He does not mean no explanation of how to do it. Of course, we need to know how to do it, and we need to explain the deen of Islam. We need to explain the ayat and the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. But he refers to the explanation that is beyond our knowledge. To get into why we have to do this, right? Why is this versus this, right? And we have to know that to get into the explanation of this. Sometimes we don't have an explanation. If the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ said that Shams, the sun, when the sun set, it goes and makes sujood under the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. People would say, but the sun, when it sets, it rises somewhere else. It's not going anywhere, right? This is an example. Don't get into this, is unseen to us. And do we know how the sun makes sujood anyway? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that the sun makes sujood, the trees make sujood. أَلَمْ تَرَ أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَسْجُدُ لَهُ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Didn't you see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prostrate to him everything in the heavens and everything in the earth? وَالشَّمْسُ وَالْقَمَرُ وَالنُّجُومُ وَالشَّجَرُ, the stars and the trees, وَالْجِبَالِ and the mountains, وَكَثِيرٌ مِّنَ النَّاسِ, وَالدَّوَابِ and the animals, and many of the human beings. وَكَثِيرٌ حَقَّ عَلَيْهِ الْعَذَابِ, and many, they are ruined in the adab and the punishment from Allah because they did not humble themselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and worship. So do we know how the trees make sujood? Some people that bring these pictures with a tree making sujood. See? So all the trees are disobedient and now making sujood except this one tree, or an animal making a position of sujood. It doesn't have to be like our sujood. It doesn't have to be like this. It makes sujood, yes, it makes sujood. And making sujood does not mean it humbles itself. No, it makes sujood. That's what the ayah says. It makes sujood. It's all part of the arrogance of the human being, that the human being thinks that he has to know everything, when he doesn't know anything. We don't know beyond this room what's going on outside. We're so limited that we don't know anything. It's all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's this arrogance that makes a person set examples, following the desires, making analogy, rejecting something because it doesn't make sense to him or to her or whatever there is. We're supposed to believe, and it does not oppose the sound mind. These things does not oppose the sound mind. It's beyond our understanding, some of it, to know the essence of it. This is absolutely fine. There are many things that we don't know the essence of it. The deen of Islam is the statement that we should all remember, and the deen لا يأتي بما يخالف العقول. The deen, the correct deen, does not come with things that contradicts the reason, the proper reason. بل يأتي بما تحار فيه العقول. But it can come with things that goes beyond one's intellect. This is valid. There's so many things beyond our understanding, right? This is okay. We don't know what's beyond what we see with our own eyes. But something that opposes the basic or what means with matters of reason, there's no such a thing in the deen of Islam. Nothing opposes, not my reason and your reason and this reason. No, the proper reason with the proper deen. But our concern is the deen, not the reason. And the deen the reason follows that, and it's perfect sense, and that's what the submission is in place. So at-tasdeeq, without saying why or going into detail of how and so on, وَلَا يُقال لِمَا وَلَا كَيْفَ, and not to say lima, why, and not to say how, in the things that we're not ordered to say. Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made this decree, why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this haram, why this is halal, like this. Right? This is, we follow and we submit because this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of the heavens and the earth. And the more the person knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with his names and attributes, the more he would humble himself to the creator of the heavens and the earth. And the outcome is coming. People will see the effect of their own actions, and they would regret so much that they didn't follow the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the shaitan will distance himself away from them. And it happens from one generation, one nation after another for the prophets of Allah, the followers of the prophets of Allah, and the disbelievers, they regret it afterwards. So the same thing happens, and a person should hold fast to the deen of Islam, and this is the test that a Muslim is going through, to be firm on it and not to deviate away from this truth after the matter has been made clear. We'll stop at this point, and then in the next 10 minutes or 15 minutes, inshallah.